Will Jean-Clair Todibo be the first signing of the summer for 40 million euros? McKenna, bombshell, and it looks like we are going to get a free signing incoming very shortly. These are some of the stories we will be discussing on this morning's show. But before we get into that, please give today's video a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're going to be live throughout the whole of the transfer window in the morning, in the evening, and if anything breaks during the day, I will go live as well. So make sure you subscribe, get involved. Always good to have more people in this community. Right. Let's start the show off with some positivity about the FA Cup final on Saturday. And we can confirm that Mason Mount, Lindelof, and Anthony Martial are in first team training and should be available for the game on Saturday. Now, you're probably sat there thinking, all of those players need to leave, none of them are good enough. Fine. That's fine to have that opinion, but we're still a stronger side when you've got Victor Lindelof available, Mason Mount available, and Anthony Martial available. They do offer something. You know, Anthony Martial, as much as it's the right decision that he's leaving in a couple of weeks' time when his contract expires, he still could offer us something off the bench. And I know people are probably sat at home thinking, what the hell are you talking about? But I honestly think that going into this FA Cup, when we've had such an injury-ridden season, going in with Martial, Lindelof and Mason Mount fit and available is better than them not being fit and available. Harry Maguire looks like he'll also be available. So at the very, very minimum, we're going to have 4 defenders playing in defence. We won't see Casemiro in defence. We won't see Johnny Evans in defence. We'll most likely see Dalot at left back, Varane and Martinez as the 2 centre-backs, and Wan-Bissaka at right back, which is pretty much our full-strength defence. Obviously, Luke Shaw usually would play, but he's unavailable. So I think it does give us a big boost going into this game. Do I think we're going to win? Probably not, but I think we have a better chance of winning knowing that we've actually got a proper defence. We've got options off the bench. You know, Mason Mount, Anthony Martial, they can change football games. So I'm quietly happy about that. Being honest, I'm still expecting us to lose, but I think we'll have more of a chance of winning with these options available to us. But let me know what you think. What are your score predictions for the game against Man City on Saturday? Let me know in the comment section. What are your score predictions? I'm going to go with, I reckon it'll be like 3-1 Man City or something like that. Someone in the chat saying, Man United has finally broken Kieran. You need a rest, mate. You're not making sense. I don't really understand that comment. I mean, I know people don't think Anthony Martial is good enough. I know some people think Mason Mount was a waste of money, but I would rather have those players available to us than not available to us. Like, surely that's just common sense. But anyway, let's have a look. Somebody says the difference between City and United is that City want to win the final and Man United need to win the final. Yeah, that's a fair point. Obviously, if we don't win, then we're not in Europe at all, which is shocking, to be honest. Absolutely shocking. We desperately need to win this game on Saturday, don't we? Anything can happen in a final, though. You know, we've seen bigger upsets than this happen over the years. You know, in like the World Cup or in the Euros, or you know, upsets can happen. Everyone thinks Man City are going to win. We're going into this game as the underdogs. We're going in this game expecting to be thrashed. We're going into this game expecting to probably not even have a shot on target. But you never know. Erik ten Hag might prove his worth as a manager. He might do something which catches Pep out. I mean, it's unlikely, but these things can happen. It's football. That's why people watch sport. It's because it's entertaining. It's unpredictable. Now, I know obviously since Man City have got all their money, they aren't really unpredictable and they do win every single game. So any other team, if we were playing like Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, I would say, you know, oh, we might win. There's a chance. But let's have a look what people are saying in the comments. Somebody says Man United will win 3-2. Tarquin says, Tony Martial, please turn up against Man City. Give him a run out, please. Yeah, imagine how poetic that would be, right? Anthony Martial's final game for Man United comes off the bench and scores the winner. I mean, it could happen. Things like this happen in football. Tell me this now, right? Who sat here today thought that Ademola Lookman, who was rejected by Fulham, rejected by Charlton, rejected by Red Bull Leipzig, would score a hat-trick last night in a European final? Do you remember how bad Lookman was for Fulham? He was terrible. Absolutely awful. And they sold him for like literally next to nothing. And he's just gone and got a hat-trick against Bayern Leverkusen, who are unbeaten all season and beaten them 3-0. Like, how many people thought that would happen last night? I didn't. I thought Bayern Leverkusen would absolutely thrash. I know Atalanta are a good side. You know, they're not a bad side. They're a very good side. But I still thought that Bayern Leverkusen would comfortably beat Atalanta last night when you consider how good of a run they've been on. And Ademola Lookman gets a hat-trick. 3 in one game in a final. Like, so this is what I'm saying. This is why people like football. This is why it's exciting, because the unexpected can happen, and we have to go into it with that bit of hope. To go into it thinking we're going to win 100% is obviously never going to happen. But yeah, Phil says, who will get the Europa League spot if City win? I believe it goes to another country, so it won't be to anybody in England, I'm pretty sure. Usually it is... Let me double check that for you. Who gets Europa League spot if Man City... I'm pretty sure none of us get it. So... Okay. So 6th place would get it. That's how it works. So if Man United win the FA Cup, we get the Europa League spot. If Man City win the FA Cup, then Chelsea would get it. So if we don't win, Chelsea would get Conference League and Newcastle would get no European football. Does that make sense? So usually it's the top 4 get Champions League. 5th place gets Europa, which is Tottenham. And then 6th place gets Europa if the winner of the FA Cup has already qualified for Europe. So if Man City win, Chelsea will get the Europa League spot in 6th place. If we win, Chelsea will get the Europa Conference League spot, and Newcastle in 7th would get no European football. Does that make sense? So there's a lot to play for. There really, really is. Obviously, the Chelsea fans will be hoping we lose. The Newcastle fans will be hoping we lose, because if we beat Man City, Newcastle will be out of Europe next season. If we beat Man City, Chelsea will be in the Conference League. They'll have gone from the Europa to the Conference League. So this is literally got so much pressure on this game, as you guys all know. Let's see what else people are saying in the chat. Just people slagging off Anthony Martial. That's fine. Stephanie says Lookman was at Everton originally. Yeah, I was reading up about Lookman. He apparently was playing Sunday League football until he was about 16, 17. And somebody from Charlton spotted him at Sunday League and gave him a chance. Like, he has a really, really interesting backstory if you look at Ademola Lookman. But that was all my point was, you know. Everyone's expecting us to lose. But then how many of you sat here today expected Atalanta to beat Bayern Leverkusen 3-0 and Lookman to get a hat-trick? Probably very few. Richard says, Kieran, on Saturday, that blue moon is going to fall from the sky. I hope so, mate. I hope so. I will be so happy if we win on Saturday. So happy. Like, forget about the whole Ten Hag in, Ten Hag out. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? My focus is on Saturday. I want to beat Man City. I want us to win a trophy. I want to feel that sense of happiness again, because it is pretty miserable being a Man United fan, being completely honest. Now, I know obviously we've had so much riches and success over the years, you know, so there are fans who support teams in like the Conference League. And so it is a little bit tongue and twist for me to say it's miserable. But when you love a club so much like we all do, and it's been dragged through the mud by the Glazers, and we are where we are, obviously it does hurt a lot. But let's move on from that, though. Let's talk a little bit about Jean-Clair Todibo. So the headline this morning is that apparently this is coming out from a very reliable source in Nice. Very, very, very good source around Nice Football Club. And they're reporting that apparently Ineos have set a 40 million euros price tag for Nice this summer. That's how much it will cost if Man United want to bring him in, which is about £34 million. I think that's a really, really good deal. I would be very happy with that. Obviously, Johnny Evans is going to go. Varane's contract's not being extended. And I think either Lindelof or Maguire will probably go as well. So at least 2, if not 3 centre-backs will be leaving Man United this summer. And we are expecting to sign 2 new centre-backs. We'll talk about the other one in a minute. But it looks like Man United will put in a bid of 40 million euros for Jean-Clair Todibo. And apparently that will be enough to agree Ineos and Nice to sell him to us. I know it's a little bit weird, isn't it? Because obviously Jim Ratcliffe owns Nice as well, but like, you can't just give him to us for 1 or 2 million because we are owned by the same club. That would be effectively cheating. It has to be a fair market value. We saw that happen, was it last summer when Newcastle sold Saint Maximin to a team in Saudi who was owned by the same people. They had to sell him for what was a market value. So yeah, so you have to be very, very careful with this. You know, people saying, oh, why can't they just give him to us for 5 million? Or they can't do that. It has to be a fair market value. And I think 40 million euros probably is a fair market value for Jean-Clair Todibo. You know, if you maybe compared him to Saliba cost Arsenal about the same amount of money, came from a club in France, was probably in about a similar stage of his development at the time. They paid 30 million euros for Saliba, Arsenal did. So 10 million less than what Man United will reportedly pay for Jean-Clair Todibo. So that sounds about right from St. Etienne. So yeah, I'm happy about that. I think 40 million would be a really, really good deal. Everyone who's just joined, by the way, can you please smash a like on today's video? Let's try and hit 250 likes on today's show. And if this is your first time watching, make sure you subscribe as well. I think we're only like 2 subscribers away from 21,900. So we're getting very, very close to 22,000. Yeah, we're now 1 subscriber away from 21,900. So if you are watching today for the first time, make sure you hit that subscribe button. As I said earlier on in the video, we will be live throughout the whole of the transfer window. Videos in the morning, videos in the evening. Anything breaks during the day, I will go live immediately and we can all discuss it as a community together. So make sure you get involved if you haven't already. Let's see what else people are saying in the comment section. Daniel says, Lookman hat-trick. What about a Garnacho hat-trick on Saturday? Mate, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? I would love that. Absolutely love that. Stretford Gamer says, I'm fine with getting no Europe as long as these players and the manager leaves so we have time to build a team around a new style. That's a fair point, mate. Like, I don't want Erik ten Hag to be sacked, personally. But if Erik ten Hag is going to be sacked, being out of Europe probably is the best possible thing for this club because it will give us plenty of time on the training pitch. It will mean we only have 1 game a week. We shouldn't have as many injuries. We shouldn't have as many issues. We should be able to really, really focus on implementing a manager's style. But then I think it works the same for Erik ten Hag. Like, it's not good that Erik ten Hag doesn't have European football because effectively it questions whether he's a good manager or not. Because people will say, oh, we're not in Europe, it's a disgrace, all the rest of it. And that's a fair point, you know? But on the flip side of that, you would expect Erik ten Hag to perform much better in the Premier League next season, knowing that we're only going to be playing 1 game a week, knowing that 5 or 6 days a week he'll be on the training pitch, knowing that we won't have anywhere near the amount of injuries because we'll probably play, at the minimum, 6 or 7 less games, at the very minimum. So yeah, we'll wait and see what happens. But I do actually agree with you in some ways. Financially, being out of Europe is terrible. Club brand wise, being out of Europe is terrible. But from an actual position of how do we improve? How do we implement tactics? How do we see better football? Being out of Europe probably is for the best, being honest. Because obviously Arsenal were out of Europe for 3 years. When Arteta first joined, right, he's been at the club 5 years now, Arteta. The first 3 seasons he wasn't in, I think the first 2 seasons he wasn't in Europe at all. He finished 8th. The 3rd season, I think he finished in the Europa League spot. And then the 4th season was the first time he finished in the Champions League spot. So it took Arteta 2 years as manager to get any European football. And even then it was, yeah, I'm just having a look now. So Arteta's first season, he finished 8th. 2nd season, he finished 8th. 3rd season, he finished 5th, which was Europa League. So he got Europa League in his 3rd season. And then obviously last season he got 2nd, and this season he got 2nd. So you can see how a manager not having to play on a Thursday night and a Saturday night for the first 2 years of his career, of his managerial career at a club, did help him to implement his tactics. If you go and watch Arsenal, how they were playing in the first 1 or 2 years under Arteta, they were terrible. They were really, really poor. And then by the time it got towards the end of the 2nd season and the beginning of the 3rd season, you could really see what Arteta was starting to do. So, yeah, I think that is good. What else have we got here? KD says, United generates the most revenue in the world. We can handle a season out of Europe. You are right, mate. But obviously with the profit and sustainability rules changing, I think being out of Europe is going to impact us pretty badly because we do rely on that kind of Champions League money and all the rest of it. The simple option would be that they clear the debt and then we'd be in a much better position. But it doesn't look like Ineos are going to do that. The Glazers are clearly not going to clear the debt. So we are kind of where we are in that regard, which is frustrating, but it is what it is. Just circling back to the Todibo story quickly. Apparently Atletico Madrid and Tottenham are also looking to sign Jean-Clair Todibo. But from what I'm hearing, if Man United put in this 40 million euros bid, they will get him. He wants to come to Manchester United. He wants to play Premier League football. I think if I was Jean-Clair Todibo, I would look at Man United and say, I'm going to be a first-team player if I go there, because at the moment, Varane's gone. You've got Varane and Johnny Evans are gone. Okay, your only defenders now are Lindelof, who I think is going to leave, Maguire, who could leave, if not, he's a backup, and Martinez. You've only got 3 centre-backs at the moment, because obviously Johnny Evans and Varane are definitely going, and I think Lindelof or Maguire will go. So I think realistically, from our current available centre-backs, you'll probably only see Martinez staying, and then either Maguire or Lindelof staying. So there'll only be 2 centre-backs. So if I'm Jean-Clair Todibo looking at Man United, I would think immediately I'm going to be a first-team player. Whereas if you look at Tottenham, they've obviously got Van der Ven. They've got a couple of other people in that centre-back position who are pretty good. So I think he would actually struggle to get into the... what was that guy they bought? I can't say his name. What's his name? Let's have a look quickly. The point I'm trying to make is that Tottenham have good centre-backs in their squad. They've got Van der Ven, they've got Christian Romero, who's obviously a very good centre-back, and they've got that Dragazin, who they bought for quite a lot of money last season and doesn't seem to play. So they've got really, really solid options there, whereas I think we don't as much. Mark says, I saw that Man United only have 35 million to spend. I saw that story as well, mate. I think that's mad. I don't really understand how they can come out of that story, because we don't even know we don't even know whether we are in Europe yet. So how does a journalist know what our budget is? I just think that's a rubbish story, because obviously if we qualify for Europe in the Europa League, we will have more money. If we win the FA Cup, we will get prize money. Whereas, I don't know, it just doesn't really make sense. Like, how can they know for sure how much money our budget will be when we don't even know whether we'll be in Europe yet? We don't know whether we'll win the FA Cup yet. It doesn't really make sense. And I think they're probably just fishing. And we always try and bring the stories on here and discuss them. So, yeah. Somebody says, Todibo is perfect for Man United. He's just what we need, and 40 million is a good deal. I agree with you completely. Daniel says, my dream summer would be Branthwaite from Everton, Todibo from Nice, Frimpong from Bayern Leverkusen, Elise from Crystal Palace, either Sesko or Tony, and then Palacios from Bayern Leverkusen. I mean, that would be an incredible summer, wouldn't it? Imagine how much that would cost, though. So Branthwaite's 55 million, Todibo 35 million. That is, what's that, 90 million. Frimpong, I think his release clause is 35 million, so that's 125. Elise's release clause is 60 million, so that would be 185. Sesko Tony, probably going to cost you 60 million. That's 245. I don't know about Palacios, maybe. Yeah, I mean, that's probably like a 300 million pound window, that is. But that would take us from where we are now to, I would say, second or third in the Premier League. You know, if you had Elise, Frimpong, Sesko, Branthwaite, Todibo, Palacios. I mean, that's effectively a whole new team, isn't it? It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it's like 5 or 6 players. It's possible if we sell lots of people. You know, if Rashford left, if Bruno left, if Casemiro goes, if blah blah blah, like, it is possible. Right, let's move on to Kieran McKenna, though. Everyone who's just joined, by the way, please smash a like. We're very close to our likes target. I'm going to set up a new poll as well. So for everybody who's been watching back on repeat, the question for the live chat, if you do want to get involved in the live videos as well, like if you're watching this back on repeat, we're live in the morning at 11 and in the evening at 6. So if you want to be part of the conversation, obviously we have a big chat. People can write their comments and I'll read them out and stuff. Then make sure you get involved in the live shows, because yeah, there's lots and lots of people who watch live, and it's, you know, there's a real sense of community. So if you do want to get involved in that, make sure you subscribe and yeah, join the live videos if you're around. So yeah, 93% of you would like to see Jean-Clair Todibo come to Manchester United. I agree with you. He should be our number 1 target. But we are heavily linked to another centre-back. I did say earlier on in the show that Man United will sign 2 centre-backs this summer. This is coming out from Simon Stone, who is a reporter for the BBC. Very, very reliable journalist. Doesn't put out fake stories, doesn't put out lies. He is a tier 1 elite journalist. Very, very good. And he is reporting this morning that Manchester United are looking to battle with Newcastle to sign Fulham centre-back Tosin on a free transfer. So, to give you a bit of a background story about what's going on with the Tosin transfer, 26 years of age, obviously currently plays for Fulham. He was in the England squad a while ago. Newcastle have apparently been in talks to sign him for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. But apparently Man United are his preferred option to come to. That's where he wants to come. He won't cost us any money. He's available as a free agent because he hasn't signed a new contract with Fulham. Sorry. So this is an absolute no-brainer. He's had a really, really good season for Fulham this year. Obviously, Fulham have had an okay season. He played 20 times in the Premier League this season. I think he'd be a quality signing for nothing. I don't think he's any worse than Lindelof or Maguire, to be honest. I think he is on par with both of them, which would then allow us to sell one of those. It would mean we get someone in for free, then you could go and let Lindelof go for, 15, 20 million. And that's then 15, 20 million in the bank. So for me personally, I think Tosin would be a really, really strong signing. I would really like to see him come to Manchester United. Let me just have a sip of my water. Daniel says Tosin is okay. He's at the same level as Lindelof. Yeah, I agree, mate. I think the point I'm trying to make here is he is a squad player like Lindelof, but I think we could sell Lindelof, get some money in, and then sign Tosin for free, which as you can see, it works out better. Felix says, I didn't realise he was English, so we should get him since we're getting rid of Rashford, Sancho and Greenwood. Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point there. Obviously, Man United, teams in England have to have a certain amount of what are classed as homegrown players. So Tosin was born in Manchester. He is English or has English citizenship. He came through the Man City Youth Academy. So he knows Manchester well, obviously. He was at Man City Youth, I think, in the under 18s and stuff. Then went to West Brom, then to Blackburn, and then he went to Fulham about 4 years ago. So obviously you need a certain amount of English players, or not necessarily English, homegrown players. And he would be classed as a homegrown player. So it makes a lot of sense, especially if, like somebody said in the chat, if we wanted to move on somebody like Sancho, Greenwood, maybe even a Marcus Rashford, all 3 of them are classed as homegrown players. And as I said, you have to have a certain amount of homegrown quota. That's why somebody like Scott McTominay probably won't be sold, because he is a homegrown player. It's probably why Dalot will be at the club for the next 5, 6, 7 years, which is rightly so because he's a good player. But Dalot's classed as a homegrown player. Garnacho's classed as a homegrown player. The homegrown quota is all to do with how many games a player has played in England before a certain age. So it's quite confusing to get your head around. But yeah, he is absolutely essential, I think, for Man United. Obviously, Lindelof's not a homegrown player. So you sell Lindelof for maybe 15 million. Maybe you send him back to Benfica. Maybe, yeah. 15 million. Clear his wages. I think he's on quite high wages, Lindelof. Around 150k a week. Yeah, Lindelof's on 140k a week. So let me picture the scenario for you. You've got Lindelof, who, let's be honest, is not good enough. He's got, I think, 2 years left of his contract. You sell him now, get 15 million in the bank, and you clear his 140 grand a week wages. And he doesn't really offer anything, to be honest, Lindelof. He's injured quite a lot. He's not part of the homegrown quota, so that's obviously a downside. Whereas Tosin, 26 years of age, so he's younger than Lindelof. Lindelof's 30 this year, so he's 4 years younger than Lindelof. He has obviously a lot of experience playing in England, having come through the Man City Youth Academy, will fit in the homegrown quota. And his current wages at the moment at Fulham are only 47,000 a week. So he's paid less than a third at the moment at Fulham versus what Lindelof's paid at Man United. So if you look at it in a really, really basic way, right? Say we go to Tosin and we say, we'll give you 100 grand a week, which is too much, but just say for argument's sake, let's look at this on the dramatic side. He's on 47 grand a week at Fulham. We say, come and sign for Man United. We'll give you 100 grand a week. Okay? That's probably what Man United would have done under the Glazers. So you give him his 100 grand a week. You don't pay Fulham anything because he's a free agent. Great, he's in. Then you sell Lindelof. Even if you only got 10 million for Lindelof, let's say 10 million. You get 10 million back in the bank, which you can then go and spend on something else, and you clear his 150 grand a week wages. So you've got a younger, better centre-back on 50 grand a week less wages, who is a homegrown talent in Tosin, and you've got rid of Lindelof, who's injury-prone, 30 this year, only has 2 years left of his contract, and arguably was never good enough for Man United anyway. Gone, and you have money in the door. So it's an absolute no-brainer. I really, really hope that Man United get this deal done. I really hope that he's our first signing of the summer. As I said before, Newcastle are looking to sign him as well. So there is genuine competition there. But yeah, from what I've heard, he would rather come to Manchester United. He still has family in Manchester, blah, blah, blah. So we'll wait and see what happens. If Man United want Tosin, they will get him. That's my understanding of it. But it depends how aggressive they pursue him, if that makes sense. Let's see what else people are saying in the chat. All right, so we spoke about Todibo. We've spoke about Tosin. Let's speak a little bit about Kieran McKenna. The headline this morning is that apparently it looks like Kieran McKenna is going to become the new Chelsea manager, which is mad. That is a massive bombshell. If I was Kieran McKenna, I wouldn't go to Chelsea. They threw Graham Potter under the bus. They threw Thomas Tuchel under the bus after winning the Champions League. They threw Frank Lampard under the bus. They've now just thrown Poch under the bus, who finished... You know, Poch, since Christmas, has the third most points out of any manager in the Premier League. And they've sacked him. Or they've got rid of him, whatever you want to call it. Mutual agreement. They've effectively don't want him there anymore and have let him go. And if you just look at the table since Christmas, he would be third. Which is crazy. And they've been playing really, really nice football. They've been beating some teams like 3 or 4-0. I think they beat someone 5-0 the other day. They've been playing really, really good football, Chelsea, like as of late. And they've got rid of him. So I feel that, I mean, Kieran McKenna might go to Chelsea and might do incredible. Maybe. But I fear that he's going to go there and within 12 months, they'll probably sack him. But I guess it's not really our problem, is it? We don't want Chelsea to do well, do we? We want Chelsea to fail. But it is a little bit of a shame that Kieran McKenna was somebody who'd obviously, been part of Ollie's team. He was there. He was one of the coaches for Mourinho. He does have strong links to Man United, and obviously I want him to do well. I just fear that him going to Chelsea is a bad decision, but effectively that's up to him. But yeah, apparently Chelsea have been in contact with Ipswich and are trying to agree a settlement to bring him over. So I would be very, very surprised if this doesn't happen. Keeping on the topic of managers, though, because I think all of this is really, really important in relation to Ten Hag, because obviously people will sat there in the comments saying, oh, we should sign this person, we should sign that one. It looks like Kieran McKenna's going Chelsea. Okay, so he's gone. Vincent Kompany's going to Bayern. So obviously Erik Ten Hag wouldn't be able to go to Bayern now. It looks like Hansi Flick's about to sign for Barcelona. So some people wanted Hansi Flick. Some people thought Erik Ten Hag might walk away and go to Barcelona. Erik Ten Hag effectively cannot go to Barca or Bayern now because they both have now almost definitely agreed to new managers. So those two clubs are out of the running. What I'm trying to get at here is, I think the only way that Erik Ten Hag leaves now is if he's sacked. Because a month ago, he could have become the Bayern Munich manager. He could have become the Barcelona manager. He could have become the Juventus manager. There was like 3 or 4 top clubs looking for managers. I mean, even before the last 24 hours, it all seems to be happening quite quickly. And if Erik Ten Hag isn't sacked, why would he walk away? He's got nowhere to go. I mean, he could go back to Ajax, but I think that's a step backwards for him. So I think Man United are going to have to sack him if they want him gone, to be honest. I personally think that he'll probably stay. Fred says, and this is a good question. Fred says, do you think Poch is a good long-term appointment? Do I think Poch is a good long-term appointment? I don't, to be honest with you, mate. I don't really rate Poch that highly. So in short, no. I genuinely would, but this is going to be, people are going to laugh at this, but I would genuinely rather have Kieran McKenna than Poch. I think there is way more potential in Kieran McKenna. I think there is that ability to build something and to have like a legacy project that goes on for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. Whereas I just don't really see that with Poch. He was at Tottenham for a while. He won nothing. He was at Southampton. He didn't win anything. Okay, fair enough at Southampton. But most of the other clubs since then, he hasn't really stayed up very long. So for me, I don't see Poch as a long-term thing. I see someone like Kieran McKenna as like a maybe he could be a long-term thing, or he might come in and lose his first 5 games and get sacked. Like, it's really, really difficult to see, isn't it? Mark says McKenna will have 1 season with Chelsea and then he would just get sacked instead of staying with Ipswich, and build a good CV. Yeah, I agree with you, mate. I think it's a stupid move for him. I do. I think if he did come Man United, I think he would be given patience. Stefan in the chat says, the day Qatar pulled out of buying Man United, the club died. They would have been able to remove the Glazers, cleared the debts, and build a 100,000 person stadium. I've kind of like forgot about all of that Qatar stuff. It feels like a dream that never happened, you know? When you wake up from a dream, you know, when you have those really vivid dreams. Now, I'm not talking about those funny kind of dreams before people start getting ideas. You know when you're having a dream, right? Not a funny dream. So don't look at me like that. You're having a dream and you wake up and you think it's real and it's like so vivid and so realistic. That's what the Qatar takeover thing feels like to me now. It's like I've kind of just erased it from my memory in some ways. It's weird. I don't know. I don't want to think about it too much of like what could have been, where would we have been now if Qatar come in? Like, even at the very minimum, they would have cleared the debt and we probably would have known what was happening with the stadium, which is already miles better than what Ineos have done. But I try and be positive on this channel. There's no point like screaming, get rid of Ineos and all the rest of it, because we are where we are. Ineos are the new owners. We have to hope that they're going to do well. But yeah, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. It's been a really good show today, 30 minutes, which is a little bit longer than what I usually do, but I think this flowed really well. There's been lots of good conversation. Lots of people are pitching in. I'll read out a couple more questions quickly. Somebody says, what do you think about De Zerbi to Chelsea? I don't think it's going to happen, mate. It looks like it's going to be Kieran McKenna, as I just said. It looks like Kieran McKenna to Chelsea is going to happen. Somebody else says, I think Erik ten Hag will stay this summer. Josh says, I want Zinedine Zidane to manage the team this season. Yeah, I mean, Zidane would be an interesting option. I just don't think it will happen, mate, to be honest. I would be interested in Zidane. I'd be interested in Ancelotti, but I don't think any of those people are going to come, unfortunately. But thank you, everyone who's joined me on the show today. I will be back at 6 o'clock for another one of these videos, a live one. Please consider leaving a like on your way out. Doesn't cost any money. It will really help to bring more people into the community, create more conversation, and it will allow us to do bigger and better things in the future. So make sure you give a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe as well if this is your first time watching. And also get in the comments section. Let me know, have your say. What do you want to happen with Erik ten Hag? What do you think about Todibo? What players do you want us to buy this summer? Let me know. I always like to read through all the comments. So make sure you do that. Have a great morning, day, evening. I'll speak to you all at 6.